Welcome to Making Maverick Moves. I'm your host, Gina L. Osborn, Army veteran and retired FBI Assistant Special Agent in charge. I've always admired people who dare to bet on themselves, especially when the odds or the expectations aren't in their favor. And as a woman who came up in male-dominated fields myself, I feel a deep kinship with women who've had the guts to carve out their place and make their mark. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome one of those women, Katie McEvilly, Senior Vice President and Branch Banking Market Leader for U.S. Bank. With more than 2 decades in financial services, Katie has built her career by trusting her instincts, finding the right mentors, and discovering where she can make the greatest impact. In this episode, we'll talk about the lessons she's learned along the way, the power of mentorship, and how you can find and own your unique place in the world. Welcome to the show, Katie.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to chat with you. And the reason why is because you've had this unconventional path. What inspired you to pursue a career in banking?
I love that question, Gina, because the answer is it was an absolutely one big giant accident. And I am convinced that most bankers will tell you that they are accidental bankers. I was 18. I was fresh out of high school. I was lost. I definitely was not one of those kids that knew what they wanted to do. So my mom actually had a friend. She was a dear family friend of ours, and she was a client of the bank. She went in there, I think, just for fun. She would go in and see her friends at the bank every day, and they had an opening. She came home and called my mom and said, Katie has to go in and meet with them and interview. I was working in a dry cleaners. I'd been working in a dry cleaners for like 2 years. That was my one and only job. And there I went at 18, terrified. I remember the interview vividly. I was so physically uncomfortable. But I interviewed, and truly because of my relationship with her is how I got the job, because I can tell you I did not interview well at all. So it was an accident.
What point did it become your passion?
I would say connecting with others and building relationships is just my happy place. And it wasn't about the banking, right? So it had nothing to do with the aspect of finance, but it was just connecting with people all day, right? I was serving clients, I was connecting with people and having these deep, meaningful conversations. And I loved it, never looked back. I almost never even had a decision to make. Like the decision was made for me. I was there, I was good at it. And this is just what was going to be from that day forward.
I always say sometimes you find your destiny and sometimes your destiny finds you. And it sounds like your destiny definitely found you.
Without a doubt.
So you have really climbed the ranks, starting from that position all the way up to the position that you're in right now. When you started, did you think that you would make it this high up in the chain?
Absolutely not. I remember actually so I had a very kind of linear, traditional, worked in the branch part-time, and then I moved to full-time, and that was a really big deal. And then they opened up supervisor roles and I became a supervisor. I vividly remember being an assistant manager and just thinking, I've made it. Like, this is it. This is my pinnacle. I've made it. I think at that point I had maybe had at least my first of 3 children. And I remember thinking, like, I can provide for my family. I love what I do. This is it. I will be in this job forever. I yeah, I had no idea it would go anything beyond that. Even being a branch manager was like, oh, I don't think I'm ready for that. So I had no idea what was in store for me.
And this was a male-dominated field. It continues, I'm assuming, to be a male-dominated field. So what was that like when you were climbing your leadership ladder?
Yeah, there are tons of females in banking as well, right? I think when you get to leadership, historically, that is where it's been very male dominated. I very early on in my career, it's actually when I was the assistant manager, I had a new boss. I was on maternity leave. I came back and I was assigned this new boss, and he had this reputation of being pretty tough. Very early on, it was very clear that he believed in me more than I believed in myself. Right. I think that's when that was my very first male mentor, and I think really just true mentor that ultimately ended up being just my biggest sponsor. But yeah, there was these moments. He left, of course, he was promoted many times after that, and when he left, he was encouraging me to be the branch manager, and I thought like I can't be the branch manager. And I remember him telling me, Katie, you're doing the job. Like, do you think that I act like the branch manager around here? I don't know if you know this, but I stopped doing, those things a long time ago, and you really you are already doing it. It was almost as if he knew that I needed that to happen, right? Without saying, "Hey, I'm handing over the responsibilities to you," because I would have been too afraid.
Male mentors for women are truly underrated. I don't think they get the recognition that they deserve. I've learned a lot from my male mentor. So what's one of the lessons that you learned from yours?
Oh, without a doubt, to get out of my own way. I was fortunate enough that the world, so I grew up in the in-store banking world. It was a separate, so like in the actual grocery stores, right? And back in those days, it was a completely separate business line. And our leader was this strong, wonderful female, Amy Heard. She just built this culture where the women were not competitive. We really did lift each other up. But talking about having a male mentor, the biggest blessing for me, having a female mentor is incredibly important, right? Somebody to empathize with. And we talk about, I am one of those people that there is a narrative going on in my head at all times. And it's usually some type of negative self-talk. It's usually me doubting myself. And typically when I talk to other women about it, they empathize with that. They understand it. It seems to ring true for them as well. And for me, having these strong male mentors, not only did they have a seat at the table, right? So they had a seat at the table and they could speak my name when I wasn't in the room. But oftentimes when I would talk to them about, being afraid to present for this or, being fearful of this opportunity, they didn't understand that fear, and it was good for me. It was good for me to hear them just say, like, stop, knock it off, get out of your own way, just do it. Like, stop the noise. Why are you overthinking this? So it's always been very valuable to me to have the women in my life that empathize and understand and it resonates with them, right? But then having this different perspective in my life to say, like, why are you sabotaging this? Like, what are you afraid of? Put yourself out there, and not understanding the crazy chatter in my head, that has been the biggest blessing. My male mentors have taught me just to get out of my own way.
And there's something magical that comes with not allowing yourself to talk yourself out of things, not
Yes.
allowing the negative self talk to sink in. When you really don't give yourself that option to not do something, that's when the magic happens for sure.
I can't even, I think about all of the time that I have wasted being paralyzed with fear or listening to that chatter in my head. I could be a much more productive person if I just, silenced the noise that's my own noise and just made the decision and moved forward.
So, looking back on your leadership style, number one, what is your leadership style and what was it back then and how has it evolved over time?
I would say authenticity always is my number one. I think first is really truly being authentic to myself, which in turn, I find that empowers other people to feel comfortable just showing up as themselves, right? And that to me is everybody's superpower, is just be you, right?
Mm.
So for me, yeah, I would say I'm an authentic leader. I'm a leader that cares deeply, but I also have high expectations. I I find that oftentimes, and the irony here, right? This has been the story of my career, that we limit ourselves. We limit what we think that we can do, what we think that we can achieve, what we think that we can accomplish. And um, I like to see something in others that they don't always see in themselves, and then find a way to get them to see that or believe in them when they don't believe it for themselves, and to really push them to achieve things that they never thought that they can achieve. That is, I just genuinely love connecting with people and learning from people. And it's interesting now, I've had so many powerful mentors and sponsors. And now when I have the opportunity to do the same for others, um, I thank my mentors and sponsors all the time, right? I wouldn't be here without you. I'm so grateful. And now when others say that to me, I understand that feeling of, are you kidding me? I'm getting just as much, if not more, out of this than they are, right? So I really pride myself in if I didn't have Jeff and the other leaders that believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, I would still be an assistant manager at a branch. So I really pride myself on being that person for other people and honesty. I think that we shy away from giving people honest, direct feedback. And that's not the kind thing to do, right? I think you can be clear and I think you can be direct. And I think you can be kind at the same time. So I pride myself on giving people the honest, true feedback because I know without that, I would not continue to grow and challenge myself and be a better leader without that. I just think everybody deserves that.
That's a lesson for everyone who's listening. If you see someone that you want to have them be your mentor, just ask
Yes.
because they're like you or they're like me. And we love to give guidance. We love to give advice.
So
We
true.
love to show people the way. And so I think, a lot of times people won't ask someone to be their mentor because, oh, they don't have time or they don't have this or they don't have that. But a lot of times we really want to help other people coming behind us. And you'd be surprised that if you just ask, what you'll get.
That is the best advice. I tell people all the time that same advice, just ask for a conversation. And maybe it's one fantastic conversation and that's it. Maybe it turns into a lifelong mentorship. Maybe it turns into a mentorship that's this very specific, purposeful mentorship and it fizzles out over time. If you're intrigued by somebody, send them the email, pick up the phone, ask them for a conversation.
It's also important to leaders to know that people are watching you. People are watching the way you do things because they may not have the confidence to come up and ask you to mentor them, but they are learning from you and how you handle things and how you deal with people, how you treat people. Nothing goes unnoticed because people want to get up to that position.
I could not agree more. I always say that I think it's really easy to be a wonderful leader in the big moments, right? Like,
Mhm.
when everybody's watching, when these big moments are here and it's, when that needs to happen. But I think that those leadership moments really happen in the small moments when nobody is watching, but they are watching, right? When you're just interacting with any single person on your team, it doesn't matter what role that they have. Like that, it to me is where you build that culture within your team, but that is where
Mhm.
you do build the respect as a leader. It's not in
Mhm.
those big moments, it's in those very small, quiet moments that you do over and over and over again that matter.
Right. And being predictable, that builds trust. So when people know that you're going to do things a certain way and you're going to do it that way every time, now you can be predictably unpredictable as long as that's what your thing is, you can run with it. But again, you've got to have that predictability in order for you to be able to build trust with those folks.
That is so true. Consistency is so critical. We do not talk about that enough in leadership. I agree.
So we like to talk about finding your place in the world. And through your journey, and it's been remarkable, starting at the very bottom in a part time position to go all the way up to the position that you're in now. If you can give some advice as to how do you find that place in the world where you're going to fit?
Gosh, that's the $1,000,000 question, right?
Mhm.
I think of how many times I've looked at other women who were so different than me, and I've admired them deeply. I would look at what others had as a shortcoming for myself, feeling like, oh, I need to work on that. Oh, I need to get better in that area. It took me a really long time to realize that absolutely not. But that is somebody that I need in my network, right? And I think I said it earlier, but our superpower is us. I have these these natural traits, right? I can connect with anybody. I'm very proud of that. But my brain doesn't think in numbers, right? You would think finance after 24 years that, I would have a calculator in this brain, and I do not. But there's other people that I work with that do. And rather than finding that to be intimidating or thinking, gosh, I really need to work on that skill, I have now learned I will never be the smartest person in the room, but I know who the smartest person in the room is, right? And I will build a deep, meaningful relationship with them, and we will be better together.
And I think it's important for us to give ourselves that grace of not being perfect, because once you grow to a certain age, you don't try to be perfect anymore, but
Yeah.
you look back on all of the energy that you spent on thinking you had to be perfect. It's really your flaws, those imperfections. That's what make us unique and extraordinary. So if we can laugh at ourselves for our weaknesses, then I think we're going to be that much better off, because we're not going to be spending all of that time obsessing. We're just going to go out and do what we want to do.
If you knew how many times I have given that advice to other women while torturing myself of not following my own advice, right? You would probably not be surprised. But yes, we know this, but doing it every day, I think you almost have to build that muscle memory. And then you finally just get to the point that I get exhausted by my own brain that you surrender.
Yes, yes. Well, you've made maverick moves in order to get to the position that you're in right now. What gave you the courage? And let's talk a little bit about that muscle memory on how we can step outside of the box, because I think that's definitely a muscle that we need to strengthen in all of us.
Yep. I'm a big believer that being courageous is a muscle that you have to build. And if we're giving advice here, I would say when other people believe in you, trust them.
Mhm.
Right. So I think early when I was making those maverick moves and I didn't really realize it was because other people had believed in me, and I started just to trust, okay, if they think I could be a branch manager, I could be a branch manager. If they think I can move into this operations role, I guess I can. One of the biggest leaps that I made as I was a district manager, I was leading branches. I had this incredible team. I had been doing it for 5 years, all in the same business line. And this position opened up in wealth management. For that position, I needed 4 different licenses. And I had to get those licenses within 6 months, or I did not have a job. It was not, or you go back to your other job. I mean, it was quite literally, you must pass these, or your job offer is rescinded. And I had to start the role right away. Jeff, my mentor, really pushed me. Others really pushed me, and I think by that time, I didn't really, I don't want to say I didn't think making that decision, because of course I obsessed over it. But at that point, I had built that muscle memory that I knew by that point that whatever I did, I was going to be okay. I had taken on 5, 6, 7 different roles at this time. And every single time I knew that I would outwork and I would outkind anybody else. Right. I knew that I would work hard, and I knew that I would be good to everybody, and I knew that that would make me successful. So I made the move, and of course it all worked out, and it ended up being one of the biggest blessings of my career, right? Without that move, I don't think I would have had this most recent opportunity. But yeah, I just really believe that when other people see something in you, trust them, right? And when you don't believe in yourself, allow other people to carry you through in those moments. And then before you know it, you start making these little moves that feel very big at the time, right? But throughout those little decisions, you build that trust in yourself, and then that muscle memory is there. And there was much less chatter in my head over making those decisions than had been in the past. You just have to do it. Do it scared. Do it terrified. Do it second guessing yourself, but just do it.
Just do it. Just
Do
do
it.
it. And what you said is so profound. The fact that you told yourself that you're going to be all right. You can tell yourself all day long you're going to be all right, but unless you believe it, those words don't mean anything. When did you get to that point where you believed yourself, when you had that confidence saying, you know what, everything's going to be all right?
Yeah, I don't even know if I knew that I was there yet, right? But definitely applying for that job that was outside of the business line, that was everything that I knew. Looking back, that is definitely the moment that I really did trust myself. That's the moment that I left. It was leaving a business line that I knew inside and out. It was leaving this kind of circle of trust that I had built. But what it also was leaving was the brand that I had built. I was moving. I was taking this. I think at this point it was 18 or 19 years I had been in this same business line. I was moving into same company, but a business line of people that did not know me. And
Mhm.
I had to completely reinvent myself and rebuild my brand. But at that point, I knew that I could do it. I knew that I would build relationships with people. I knew that if I led with my curiosity, and I knew that if I genuinely, the terrifying part was I made the move and I was leading a team. So I was leading a team in a business that I knew nothing about. But I have learned over the years that if I was honest about these are my strengths and these are my blind spots, who has a strength that is my blind spot that I can lean on rather than pretending I was something that I am not, right? Going back to our power is us and our power is being authentic.
Mhm.
I knew that I would be okay. And so it was a steep learning curve. I definitely, went home with brain fog every day. But yeah, in that moment, I don't know that I realized how much of a risk I was taking and how much I really was trusting myself. But looking back, that was the moment for me that everything changed.
Mm, I love that. So, looking at the community, I want to give some love to my friends over at the Discovery Cube. You're on their board of directors. So, tell us a little bit about your mission over there.
I am. So that this is very new for me. I attended my very first meeting. My boss, Carl Jordan, who just recently retired, he had been with the bank in banking well over 30 years and had this incredible legacy. He had been on the board for, I think it's well over 10 years. So he had recommended that I go, I take a tour. And at first, I'm like, okay, I'll do it because Carl asked me, right? Thinking, I don't know if I have the capacity for this. I don't know if I'm really interested in this. I go and I meet these incredible gentlemen, and they give me this tour, and we go up to the boardroom and we have this conversation. And through the conversation, I believe it was Joe that said to me, I was almost talking them out of it. Like, listen, I don't have a science brain. But somehow we started talking about my children, right? And my oldest daughter graduated from UCSB and she is off at law school for environmental law. My son is at UCLA for civil engineering. And then my youngest is 16, but she's in sports med and she definitely wants to do something in the medical field. And one of them said to me, "You're a STEM mom." And in that moment, I was like, you know what? I am a really proud STEM mom. I had kids really, really young. And, I had a wonderful family, but I grew up with a very smart brother. And so
Mhm.
my path, my parents really leaned into like, oh, you're so good with people though, Katie. No matter what you do, you'll be great with people. Where my brother was more, what do you want to be? You could be anything. He's just very, very intelligent. So I have two girls, one boy. And when my kids were little, um, I always want them whatever you want to be, I love it. If you want to be a stay-at-home mom, I love that for you. If you want to be a teacher, I love that for you. But I want you to know you can be a lawyer, you can be a judge, you can be a doctor, you can be whatever you want to be. And so that for me is where my personal passion and the discovery cube, right? There is that perfect alignment because it is all about pouring into the children. And I love anytime kids can learn and they don't even know that they're learning, right? They're showing up to the cube and they're having so much fun. I feel this overwhelming responsibility to pay it forward and just to make sure, especially when it comes to children. That is right. That's my soft spot. So, yeah, I feel really proud to be on that board. I have so much to learn, but I'm really looking forward to the impact that I can contribute there.
They're a terrific organization. Okay, so now we are going to do a little bit of a lightning round. I'm going to ask you a question. So, the first word that comes to mind when you think of leadership,
Oh wow, privilege.
your advice you've ever received,
Get out of your own way.
one habit that keeps you effective,
Growth mindset.
a moment you're most proud of professionally.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I would say I would say this job that I have today. I'm very proud to lead this team and represent.
Something new you're learning right now.
Oh, wow. I would say the board, right? It's through the Discovery Cube. This is a really new thing for me. I've served on boards before, but this STEM board, I have a lot to learn.
And finish this sentence, making an impact means.
It means living a purposeful, joyful life for me.
Katie, thank you so much for being such an inspiration for all of us. And I really appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been wonderful.